Hello, I'm Judy, the organizer and creator at Rescue My Space. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome to my channel. So a couple months ago, I was in Home Depot, and as I was browsing around, I came across this long, sleek, rustic copper pipe. The only thing I knew about copper pipes were that they were used in your homes, like the pipes in your homes. That's all I knew. I still ended up taking it home, and after doing loads of research, I saw hundreds and hundreds of DIYs. So, of course, what does any DIYer do? You try to make it yourself. And with that copper pipe, I ended up making a copper pipe clothes rack, and I'll leave the video link below. And because I love this clothes rack so much, I had to make more using the copper pipe. I probably said copper pipe about 3 times. Let's keep track. As I was saying, I decided to create more designs using the copper pipe. In today's video, I'm going to show you 2 DIY copper pipe designs. These designs are both multifunctional and minimal, which in the organizing realm is catastrophic in a good way, and you can create them in a weekend. So to me, that's a win-win. So if you're interested in making your very own copper pipe design, stay tuned. Let's begin with DIY number 1, the copper pipe ladder. Here are the items and the materials you will need. As you can see, my pipe is marked, therefore I will be spray painting. Step 1, measure and mark your pipe. Rather than using a measuring tape, I decided to use one of my sewing rulers. It was just easier for me to use because it was flat and sturdy. Step 2, cut your pipe according to the measurements. I did use a pipe cutter for most of the cutting, but after a while my hand started hurting, so I ended up taking it to Home Depot where they were able to cut it for me. When using a pipe cutter, you have to make sure that you're constantly twisting and tightening the screw part, which is the orange part on this pipe cutter.
Well, bye guys.
Bye guys. I'll enjoy. Be careful.
Thank you.
Step 3, lay your pipe pieces and copper pressure tees out on the floor in the shape of the ladder. Step 4, glue the copper caps and the copper tees to create the ladder. Wipe off any excess glue. As you can see, I'm putting the glue in the inner parts of the pipe as well in the tees. This helps it combine better. I used a sheet of paper just to make sure the glue didn't stick to the floor, but you can of course use whatever you have. I use Loctite glue, and this glue is strong. Step 5, spray paint your ladder. I spray painted my ladder black to go with the interior of my home, but you can spray it any color. Keep in mind, you may have to spray it more than once if you go with a lighter color. Check out these important spray painting tips. If you decide not to spray paint your ladder, make sure you use a grease cutting cleaner. DIY number 2, the copper pipe magazine rack. And here are the materials needed for this DIY. An additional item needed is the iron. As the copper pipe ladder, step 1, measure and cut your pipe. As mentioned before, I had Home Depot cut my pipe. This is the layout of the bottom portion of the magazine rack. Step 2, glue the bottom section of the rack together. When you complete this step, you should end with 2 U-shaped pipes. Step 3, spray paint. This is optional, of course, so if you won't be spray painting, you can disregard this step. Now that the pipe section is complete, it's time for the fabric portion. And guess what? There's no sewing involved. Let's begin with fabric portion. Step 1, measure and mark fabric according to the measurements. I used a pencil to indicate where I would be cutting. You can use chalk, a pen, it's all up to you. keep in mind you will be cutting 2 pieces out of your fabric. Fabric portion step 2, cut your fabric. I was able to get my fabric from Joann's, but you can use any material that you have. Fabric portion step 3, add a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the end of your entire fabric and iron. I used a sewing gauge just to make sure I was adding the right amount of seam allowance around the fabric. But I noticed you really don't need one. Fabric portion step 4, add iron-on adhesive inside the seam allowance and iron that onto the fabric. Iron on the smooth part of that adhesive to the fabric. As you do so, make sure the textured part, which is the glue, does not touch your iron. Once the glue is connected to the fabric and the adhesive paper is transparent, pull off the paper. You should see a clear film over the fabric. Fold over the seam and iron. Fabric portion step 5, combine and adhere both fabrics together with the seam allowance side facing each other. Each time you adhere one side of the fabric, make sure that you smooth down the fabric. You don't want the completed look to be crooked. Fabric portion step 6, create a 2.5 loop on both ends of your fabric. To make this process easy, once you measure the 2.5 inches, iron that portion down, lift it up, and add the adhesive onto the end of the fabric. Flip it around and iron. Once that's done, add your poles or something with a similar shape in the loops. You want to make sure that it fits properly. As you can see, this is the outside part, which is the part that you will see. You can't see the seams, and this is how the inside should look. As mentioned before, I did not glue together the top portion of the rack to the bottom portion because I wanted to have the option to remove, replace, or wash the fabric. That's it. You see how easy it is? If you're someone who's a DIYer and will be making your very own copper pipe creation, please email me your photos and maybe I'll even share it in one of my future videos. So as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye. If you're interested in receiving exclusive access to our blog post, freebies, or inside information from me, head on over to rescuemyspace.com and sign up to our newsletter and become a Rescue My Spacer.